Why did this movie flop? How do big flops happen? How can something seem like a safe bet, only to fail to find an audience? I intend to answer these questions. In the 2000s, Luc Besson had proven himself a certified hitmaker, and in 2017 he banked that title on the most expensive independent film ever made, Valerian. This case comes to us from The Black Swan for You. Valerian was Besson's dream project. He first started working on it on the set of The Fifth Element in 1997. This is a proven hitmaker adapting a beloved graphic novel with a whopping $209 million budget. It premiered in July of 2017 at the number 5 slot with just 17 mil. A cataclysmic flop. Why? 1997. On the set of The Fifth Element, director Luc Besson is joined by Jean-Claude Messier. Messier is one of the creators of Valerian and Laureline, a 1967 French comic that Besson holds dear. Messier dislikes The Fifth Element and asks Besson why he isn't adapting Valerian instead. Besson remarks that computer-generated imagery is nowhere near where it needs to be. Sometime later, he quietly purchases the rights and starts slowly writing Valerian as he waits for CGI to catch up with his ambition. 2009. Besson sees Avatar. Avatar pushes the boundaries of what can be done with fully CG characters. He throws his Valerian script in the trash and starts over. The technology has finally arrived. Now note the time jumps here. 2012, Besson's production company EuropaCorp announces production of Valerian. In 2015, Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne are cast as the leads. Besson wants to create stars, not rely on pre-existing ones. That same year, at the Cannes Festival in France, Besson pitches Valerian to different distributors and secures most of that massive budget without involving the Big Five Hollywood studios. Now, at some point in 2015, Besson hard commits to a July 21st, 2017 release date. 2016, January. Shooting starts in France 8 years after work began. The shoot is to last 100 days, followed by a 1.5 year period of post-production. In November 2016, the trailer drops. It uses an original Beatles recording and emphasizes grand spectacle. July 21st, 2017, Valerian premieres alongside Dunkirk and Girls Trip. It gets crushed by both, and the residual heat from 2 holdovers from previous weekends, Spider-Man and Planet of the Apes. It opens with 17 mil at number 5. It experiences a brutal 62% drop in its second weekend. And by the third frame, it's out of the top 10 entirely, ending up with a total domestic gross of 41 mil. Just like The Fifth Element had 20 years prior, Valerian had failed to find an audience in Western theaters. Now that we have all the facts, let's proceed into our findings. The first factor is going to be the box office climate. First of all, sci-fi will always be like a 50-50 gamble regardless of climate. It's just one of the rules, but there's more to it than that. Recall the time jumps. Besson was inspired by Avatar, and Valerian was marketed like Avatar. It had a bombastic trailer that emphasized spectacle. But it had been 8 years since Avatar came out, and audiences had had plenty of time to grow tired of repeated Hollywood attempts at recapturing that spectacle. Look at all the white space on this poster. This indicates confidence in the hook and that the hook will be enough. What is the hook here? If there is some kind of plot or originality to be found in Valerian to get excited about, we're not seeing it. What we are seeing, we've been inundated with for 8 years. And on top of that, social media had obviously grown exponentially. And, Valerian spent all that money on a Beatles song for their trailer. Its competitors took that money and put it toward exceptional, killer social media presence. Another factor, Valerian only bombed in North America. It did okay elsewhere, 184 international. Valerian's source material is far more well known in the East than the West, sure. But there's more to it than that. The exact same thing happened to The Fifth Element in 1997. And when talking about it, when looking back, Besson says that Fifth Element was too European for NA audiences. And that's what happened with Valerian. fragments of culture get lost crossing the Atlantic all the time. There are little flavors to a film and nuances of taste that can appeal to one audience and completely turn the other off. The East has a far greater tolerance for idiosyncrasy. The West trends toward dourness, and so on and so forth. Now for the most obvious one, the bullish commitment to the release date. EuropaCorp tried, but Besson would not move off of this 2-year-old July 21st date. That movie should have never come out in that weekend, in that summer, in the face of a Christopher Nolan movie. Now there is the concept of like counter-programming. Movies can go up against each other like that, as long as they're targeting different audiences. That's what Girls Trip can go up against Dunkirk head-to-head, and it's fine. But Valerian wanted both of those audiences. Release date battles are an art form in their own right. May 3rd, 2007, for example, Shrek 3, Pirates 3, and Spider-Man 3 were all coming out on the same day for the longest time. It's like a game of chicken is fought. Staking a release date 2 years in advance is standard practice, but keeping it is not. One of the big 5 studios would have played the release date a lot differently. It also would have known the market and cut a strong domestic trailer alongside of an international one, and it would have built better hype with a strong social media campaign, and maybe releasing it in the most uncertain market last. By seeking independent financing, Besson avoided any creative interference from the studio system, but ironically, when it came to selling the film, the studio system is kind of what it needed. Art and business happen on different hemispheres, and a lot of creative burnout in Hollywood comes from this need to develop a sort of business muscle. But if the goal of your creative endeavor is to reach 2,000, 3,000 screens, and you need to fill those theaters, a business muscle is exactly what you're going to need. Case closed. Thanks for watching.